G'day listeners, welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. Another week done and another week of adventure to talk about. So first, let's get this straight underway. First up, joining me is my good mate, Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, Exalted One.
Salamat pagi, disciples.
Disciples? Disciples? Where are you, mate? Where are you?
I'm on the lovely Malaysian island of Pangkor, which is about 100 miles north of Kuala Lumpur. Currently about to enter into the second day of the Raja Muda International Regatta.
Oh, one of us is actually doing some sailing. That's very impressive.
Let's not get too carried away, fellas.
It's coming. It's that time of year in Australia. It's all getting pretty busy. So, and I've had the pleasure of sailing on the 2015 Provezza, which is now Team Hollywood, which is a beautiful boat to spend these days on.
Ah, cool. All right. Well, let's bring in our other co-host and get this underway.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Bice, welcome to the show.
Gordon Doug.
Gordon, where are you?
I'm sitting right next to you. And we are in Amsterdam. And fun fact for Holland, you should actually be from here, Jordan. You fit right in.
Oh, yeah, tall and ugly.
Pretty much. Just keeping your head above water.
No, that's not. That was just a joke, the ugly thing. For all our Dutch listeners, tall and handsome. I was just talking about myself, not the Dutch. Let me get myself out of trouble here somehow.
Oh, grab your shovel. You're going deeper, man.
Oh, dear. Boys, remember, I can't remember, about a month or two ago, we were bantering away about we needed some sort of challenge, and we agreed that we were going to have to race each other on the Wally windsurfer with their Wally resurgence.
Yep.
You remember that, BP?
Oh, I do.
We got about 6 weeks training to go.
Yeah. Well,
have we?
Well, what I've been thinking, or what I've actually gone out and done, is our special guest this week is one of the absolute legends of the windsurfing world, has been for about 35 years now. And I've got to say, personally, is one of my favourite blokes on the planet. So, because I know him quite well, we thought, let's get the great Phil McGain onto our show, and we can just talk everything windsurfing, because I know half our audience are pretty full-bore interested in this. So,
fantastic.
Mr. Phil McGain, welcome to the show, mate. Welcome to Bar Karate.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, sitting here in my little piece of paradise in Maui, Hawaii, just ready to have a good laugh with you boys.
Well, you're on the wrong podcast for that, mate.
And try not to tell us how beautiful in lovely Pangkor.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's actually just give some background on Phil. So pro windsurfer for 22 years, winning pro events for at least 30 years. From 1985 to 2013, world champion, of course, in the course racing, champion in Formula at Slalom. I mean, I don't think anyone can still beat you in Hawaii at the moment on the Slalom course. Chairman and president of the PWA for 12 years. As you say, lives full-time in Maui. So you've got for those who do want to hang out, you've got a little Airbnb thing you do down there called a little piece of paradise. I noticed your little tagline there. Boatbuilder by trade, and now more of a triathlete and an adventurer. Is that a good sum up of you, mate?
Yeah. I think you've ticked all the boxes there, Jordan. Yeah. It's been a pretty good run.
Apart from knocking around with a few dodgy blokes, especially by the name of Jordan Spencer.
Yeah. Jordan's been over here a few times. We've had a good laugh.
Yeah, we have. We just got on straight away, didn't we?
Yeah. We were lucky. We just fell onto the earth at the same spot and said, "Hey, we're best mates."
All right. Well, let's get into it. So let's just I think pretty much most of our listeners, there was this whole evolution of windsurfing from when the first Wally came out, and then it just sort of grew and grew into this whole professional scene, and it's sort of fading away a little bit now. And you've sort of lived the whole thing, and we just thought, well, maybe this is a chance And like you're a sailor as well. I know your brother was Australian Olympic coach. So your family is fully into sailing. Your brother's doing big boat stuff. You're doing all sorts of things. So we just thought, you cross over to our listener market. People will be pretty interested in the stories you can talk about. So it's just a no-brainer, really.
Yeah. Well, I was just, like every other, kid in Australia who I was lucky. I grew up in on the Parramatta River there near Hunter's Hill, and my father was into sailing, and I grew up on the waterfront. So at a very young age, I got into sailing and realized I loved doing it. And my was down the waterfront, and before you know it, we're out there sailing every afternoon. I quit all my sports in school and started racing Saturdays and Sundays. Lane Cove Sailing Club, Hunters Hill Sailing Club, got into lasers, and about the same time, all the boys in that area, some of the top sailors, the Gilbert brothers were there, and the Hydes and the Wilmots were all into the windsurfing, and just started doing. I mean, it was just good fun, and it was a good racing outlet. And for a number of years there, all the Australians were dominating the World Championship. So we had a really good, really strong fleet. All the guys from Melbourne were really good. Adelaide boys were doing pretty good. So it just became a really good base for learning how to sail. And I was racing lasers, probably 15, 16, 17, 18. Wasn't getting very good. I was pretty good at the youth level, but windsurfing just pretty much struck me as so much more dynamic and so much speed, and just you had to be the master of the game, and you had to figure out how to make this thing go. There was no crew. It was just you with the water. And yeah, every afternoon I'd come home from school and throw that thing into the water, and off I'd go, and just spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how to make that thing go fast.
So that was on
Phil, was that?
Go on, BP.
Sorry, guys. Oh, sorry, guys. Phil, was that on the Wallies back then? Was that the only rule board that was sort of around?
Yeah, that was the Windsurfer One design, which I jumped on, I think, first when I was 15. A really good outlet to learn how to race tactically, because it's all, it's one design, and the level was so high in Sydney. And we would have winter series, we'd have summer series, and we'd have nationals and states, and we got to travel and do weekend regattas. And yeah, it just became a really good base for learning how to race tactically.
I laughed during that question, BP, because I think all three of us were going to ask exactly the same question at the same time. It was quite...
Very cool.
Yeah, okay. So the Wally, and how long did you stick with the Wallies for, mate? Was that sort of... I think you won an Australian champs or three from memory in that class. So yeah. You just stayed with them, and then what happened with windsurfing? How it all sort of evolved from there? What was it like growing up through there? And what years are we talking then?
I did my first Windsurfer Worlds in Okinawa in 81, and it blew like stink. And I was like top 5 to the weather mark on the very first race, and I was just almost in shock. And I couldn't make the thing go downwind. And so after that regatta, I went home and I just sailed the piss out of the thing in every strong wind I could to figure out how to sail it. So I ended up, the next year I went back to the Nationals at Port Stephens, and I think it must have been 8. And it was blowing, it was a black nor'easter. And I remember getting off the starting line super clean, and I got halfway up the weather leg, and I look around and I didn't see anyone. And I was just like, oh shit, have I gone the wrong way? I go around the weather mark and there's a lead speedboat, and I just took off. I must have run that race by probably 10 or 15 minutes. I can't remember who was second, but after that it was like windsurfer class, and I think I sailed it pretty solid till. And at that time, the whole professional circuit started developing in Australia. The Torquay Wave Classic, we had a couple of events in Sydney. we started getting wind of the World Cup in Europe with Nash and Ken Winner and all the European guys. And so we were Mark Paul and who else was it? All the long reef guys were getting.
Was that like? So I'm just trying to think. You had Tom Ledecky, Cudmore.
Cudmore, Scott O'Connor. I mean, there was a lot of guys. There was just all the boys from the windsurfer class jumped into the shortboards and, were doing well. And I made my first trip to here in Maui in 85. Bruce Wily and Martin Littlewood came over here in 84.
Mm.
And we just came over here and started sailing Hukipa straight off the plane. I remember getting off the plane and went to Hukipa on a logo high day and just took it on the head for about 2 weeks and until we figured it out, breaking masts left and right. I'd go to the local store, buy another mast, and then I'd go back to Australia in the summer, and we did the whole Torquay thing and started winning money. So
yeah, just so you know, Phil, there's a little dropout occasionally with you. So just if we don't ask you an appropriate, give you a response, we're just sort of losing you just a tiny bit. There's nothing we can do, though. We've tried our little technology. So just keep going.
Okay.
It's all good. Yeah, so that I actually remember all those. So that's because they had I remember the Torquay Wave Classic, and then they had the Marimbula Wave Classic, which went on for ages and still goes on. And then there was a marathon event off Sydney, and then there was some event in Sydney that was sponsored by Penthouse magazine. I'm just trying to remember. Yep. They had Penthouse.
Wasn't the Peter Jackson, was it?
Yeah.
I was going to say my bedroom wall was plastered with all those events there, but not quite the Penthouse magazine one at 12 years old. I know yours was, mate.
I was 17 or something, or 18. I did that one. Yeah, it was a bit much for a little fella. All right,
Tell us more, Jordan.
Sorry, BP?
Tell us more about that one, Jordan. Come on.
No, there's nothing
surely
to tell.
There's some stories there you could share.
No, nothing to tell. It's all about Phil, nothing to do with me. So in terms of, so you started going to Maui, you started doing that, you're hanging with all the guys. I think Bruce Wiley's brother was a pro sailor for many years. I'm trying to remember his name. But
yeah, Bob Wiley. He still is.
Yeah.
Wiley Bob.
And yeah, so you sort of do this, and then so what happened with professional sailing? I guess the PBA formed. Is that what happened, or?
Yeah, so just backtrack a little bit to 85. I was still shipping boat building on Cockatoo Island in Sydney Harbour, and I was earning about $100 a month, $100 a week. And 85, I went to Cocos Cup in Guam, and it was on a One Design F2 Lightning.
Oh yeah, those things were quick.
Yeah, they were. So I got hold of one of those things about 2 months before I had to go to the regatta. It was in January, so I sailed the piss out of it all summer, and I would sail from my house up to the heads and back, I don't know, 3-4 times a week. And so I figured out how to race on it, and I went to Guam in 85, and I got second place, and I went it was like $10,000 Australian. And all of a sudden, my eyes opened up, and all the top guys in the world were there, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this is pretty much a no-brainer."
It's a no-brainer.
So, yeah, so I basically got on a plane, came to Maui, sailed here for a month because I still had to finish my apprenticeship back on Cockatoo Island. So I went back to Sydney, finished my apprenticeship, and the next year, by 86, I went to again, and ended up winning it that year. So I won like nearly $15,000 Australian.
Right.
And, I was 21 years old, and basically came to Maui, threw all my paycheck into the Bank of Hawaii in Paia and stayed here and just started going. I got sponsorship with Gastro, came back to Europe in 86, got sponsorship, that contract with Bic Sport and Gastro, and that same year in 86, the World Cup was run by the manufacturers. It was called the IWSMA.
Right.
And at that time, the manufacturers wanted to step out of running the World Cup. So basically the sailors said, well, let's run it. Let's run the sport ourselves. So a couple of guys in Europe who were good leaders, had good leadership, Nevin Sayer, Bjorn Schreiber, and we hired a guy out of South Africa called Terry Weiner to run the PBA, Professional Board Sailing Association. And that was the beginning of, we collected all the events from all over the world. We sanctioned all the events. We had a grand tour, and we had prize money of 100,000, 150,000 events. So we could, top 20 guys could go there and earn pretty good money. And if you 5 overall, you were earning great money.
Right.
And I remember being here in Maui. I would just keep stacking up my bank account, and I'd get another 50 grand in my bank account, send it home to Australia, and my mum and dad would invest it for me, and just kept the ball rolling. So once you got near the top and you started winning money, you could just keep putting money into equipment, because equipment was the most important thing. I mean, everyone physically pretty good, but your equipment was so important at that level. So the PBA ran pretty smoothly for about 4 years. And all of a sudden, one year we stopped getting our prize money.
Ooh.
And we thought, hang on, what's going on here?
Ooh. That's a good way to get people angry.
Yeah, so it's like, wait a minute, we're racing and all these guys are racing and we're not getting our prize money. So and at that point, I was on the committee for the PBA. And to cut a long story short, without getting into all the details, the guy who was running the PBA basically was using the money to build up a media empire for all these other sports, and it basically came unstuck, and he got in debt. And he didn't do a very good job of taking care of the financial side of it, and that's where he was basically stealing Peter,
robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Correct. So we weren't getting our prize money because the money was just being spent on other things. So we bankrupted the PBA. I got elected as chairman, and I was probably the right person for the job to come in there and clean that up, because you had to be really, really aggressive. We basically ended up bankrupting the PBA. We had the police go into the offices in London.
Right.
PBA office. We restructured the professional side of the sport, got the manufacturers involved, reformed the association, had it registered in the UK, and we got the ball rolling with the PWA, and it's been running really well ever since.
I reckon there could be a job for you at World Sailing, mate. Just get all the team back together and head on in.
It was a lot of work, because I was racing full time, and behind the scenes, I was trying to oversee the formation and basically it was a publicity. We had to get everyone on side to get the PWA running and up and running. We had to get the manufacturers on board, and we had to get all the sailors on board. So it was touch and go there for a while. So for me, because it got me really thinking about the way that an association is run with constitution. We rewrote the rules. We wrote manuals how to run events. We went over, we had boilerplate contracts. We had contracts for all our events. We had, all the staff that was involved. So it was a huge learning experience for me. And I didn't go to university for any
just a boat builder.
Economic stuff. I was just a boat builder and just someone who was wanting to, look after the sport and make sure that me and my mates, that we were busting our butts and going training and going to these events, that we were getting paid for what we did.
Wow.
Well, it's a really cool thing, because I've got to say that it works, because as a young 16-year-old, that was my sort of entry, if you like, into I grew up in Adelaide, and I was down in Semaphore, and I remember when the cammed Gastra cam sail came out, I went down and picked it up. I was like a kid in a lolly shop, went sailing, and then I literally sailed every night that I can remember because of what I was seeing coming down through various magazines, and what you guys were doing was helping the industry on a global level as well, because that's what got me.
Yeah, there was a lot of energy in the sport. There was a lot of money in the sport. The manufacturers were doing really well. The grassroots was still there. There was a lot of people who were still getting into the sport. So it was huge in Europe, and that's where the money was. So we would go to Europe 3-4 times a year and race, and we would do the to France and do the events in France. Then we would come back here to Maui and do the Aloha Classic. Back in those days, we were doing 3 disciplines. So we were doing slalom at Hukeeper, waves at Hukeeper, and we even did course racing. The year I was world champion in '89, we ended up going to Kihei on the other side of the island and did the last course racing event over there because the wind was north on this side of
Kihei would be a good spot.
Over in Kihei and did the course racing over there.
Wow. So with all that, with the build up of the event and stuff, were there any great rivalries? Like, did you have a great rivalry, or were there any people that you didn't like, or everything was just getting on great?
Everyone got along pretty well. I mean, the guys who were dominating, obviously Bjorn Dunkerberg, phenomenal talent. He was big and strong, and he had an incredible team behind him with boards and sails. And he lived in Gran Canaria where he could train, non-stop the whole time. He would come to Hawaii. And then Robbie Nash Robbie is still the king, really, of windsurfing because he was world champion at 13. He dominated the World Cup from the 7 until Bjorn came along. So Robbie really set the tone for professional windsurfing. He was the first guy at the beach in the morning. He was pretty quiet. He would keep to himself. He'd had all his rigs on the beach, and we were pretty green, and we were just a little bit more inexperienced than he was. So he was setting the tone, and then Bjorn came along and also very dominating course race because he won the Wind Glider Olympics in '84, and then he got into World Cup, and so he was course racing champion in. He went to the Olympics and then did World Cup. He was 80. He was 85. He was world champion. No, he was world champion in '88, and then I got world champion in course racing in '89, and then basically after that, Bjorn dominated.
Time for the dropout. Just say that again, Phil.
Bjorn. I was 89. I was world champion, and then Bjorn came along and then basically dominated the sport for 9 years.
Yeah.
Nash at that point was starting to get beaten in certainly in racing and slalom. Some guys who I think I wouldn't say rivalries, who are really stuck in my mind, I learned a lot from, was Sven Rasmussen, who actually is now as the owner and operator of Starboard.
I was just going to say, he's the guy that's behind Starboard.
Yeah, but Sven had an incredible background in racing. He went to the Olympics in '84. I think he got second, but he came into World Cup, and I would just look at Sven, and he was I would call him the starting pin king.
Port tacker or just straight for the pin?
Straight for the pin. He would port tack it. He would be the last guy at the pin, and he would dominate races, especially slalom races. And he wasn't the fastest guy, but because he started at the pin, he would get first to the mark, and he would just have clear air. So I would watch Sven, and I was still trying to learn how to race at that point. I was like, damn, Sven is just going to that pin. I started going to was such a dominant position you could get in slalom racing and also course racing, as long as the bias of the line was pretty even. Then if you could hit that pin and start, then you could do well, even if you didn't have the board speed. I remember beating Bjorn in some of my slalom races because I would try to, fight for that pin as much as I could, and even if Bjorn was back a little bit, and I could get to that mark first, then I could beat him in the race. I mean, Bjorn was so fast and he was so dominant. We just had to be super. You had to be super careful about your starting. So I consider myself a really good starter. Tactically, sailing is always learning. We're always learning about sailing. Every day you think you've got it figured out, and you get on the race course and you're like, okay, what went right, what went wrong? And, it's just such a learning experience. So there was a lot of guys, but the guys who really stand out, Bjorn, Sven, Robbie Nash, Jason Polikow came along and completely changed wave sailing, which, he dominated. He was world champion for a couple of years. It was just good times. And then, anyway, I'm waffling on here. You guys
I was actually going to say, BP, you've got it sorted today, mate. Just tell the boys we're going for the pin. Send it, Rajamuda.
That's it. Yeah. Phil told us.
Actually, I will tell you, Chris Nicholson, I raced against him for a lot, and he would fight for the pin harder than any bloke I've ever seen in my life. It's on a gate start. Nico would be out on a gate start. We did a lot of 5-0s, had gate starts, and that's when Nico made his name, and he was always going off the pin, just clear air. Away you go. No one below him. Could steer where he wanted. So over that period, we saw a lot of development in boards and rigs particularly. And you own Maui Sails, so you've sort of been responsible or been part of a lot of that development over many years. So you would have seen everything, mate. Seriously, everything. So the first, what did they call those? The RAF sail, the first RAF sail where they came out, which is Barry Spanier idea, and then the evolution of the camber inducer, and then just the development of the rig where the twist profile sort of changed. You and I have had a lot of discussions about this.
Yeah. Well, it all really changed. Actually, it was the year that I was world champion in '89. We were on the 12.5 footers. And then about halfway through the year in Tarifa, Eric Temme from France, I can't remember, he couldn't sail his longboard. It was too windy, so he took his slalom board and he actually dominated the race. He won by a country mile. So all of a sudden, we started racing, course racing in the short boards. And at the same time, Bruce Peterson from the Gorge had spent some time on the ADTR with the Gastra ADTR. And he really figured out the basically the big fat square head and the over twisted sail. So I worked with Bruce Peterson in '89, and I think that's probably another reason that enabled me to put together a good enough campaign in '89 to become world champion. And then at the end of '89, Barry at Neil Pride made phenomenal sails for Bjorn, and then it was just an arms race.
Yep.
We were making as many sails as we could to try to get an advantage in our sails, and we were making as many boards as we could. In 1990, I've actually bought my property here because I realized how important the equipment was, and I set up my Jordan's been over here and seen my setup, so I basically bought a property with a 2-story
barn,
double-story barn, and started building custom boards.
I was going to say, did you sell all your fins and got scrap money for all the carbon, and you were able to buy a property in Hawaii from all the bloody... I imagine the fins as well would have been huge technology, or huge, to make that go fast.
Yeah, well, the whole package was important.
Yeah.
The masts were I got right into the mast. I developed my own system for bending the mast, because the IMCS system, which is the industry standard, was just, for me, it was rubbish. It didn't tell you anything about the way the mast bent. So I developed my own system, basically compressing the mast from end to end, and then measuring offsets on the distance based on what it would actually be in a real sail.
Yep. Yeah.
System to try to figure out how we could develop masts. And I was at Neil Pride then, and working very closely with Barry Spanier, who was a brilliant sailmaker. And he had built all Bjorn's sails when he was dominating.
That's right.
So there was a lot. I was originally with the fins. I was working with Jimmy Lewis on fins, and he was the leader in developing fins.
Yeah.
Solution came along with the G10, and with Dennis Parton, then Tectonics, and then there was the guys in Italy, Debuchet, who was building all the carbon molded formula fins. And we would go to an event with probably 40 or 50 fins each.
Jesus.
And
Crazy.
we would be switching the fins out in between heats. We're doing slalom, racing, and waves, so we had to have fins for all the different conditions.
So if you go to Phil's place in Maui, he does is exactly that. He's got a barn, and in the barn, he's got a table to put the rocker curve into. He was doing the whole vacuum bag, foam sandwich skins, and then he's got this rocker table which you can adjust. So you really accurately get that speed, and you've got without giving any secrets away, you've got a fairly well-known sort of profile that you use on your boards. So you've got what is fast sort of setup, haven't you, mate?
Yeah. When I set up my factory here, I didn't have a ton of money. I didn't have a resource. I didn't have a manufacturer behind me. So I had to be super careful about making a board. I wanted to make a board that was super accurate, and then I could
replicate it.
That design, yeah. And if I wanted to make a change, I could go back to my table and change it a couple of millimeters here and there, and make changes to a board and do real development rather than just hit and miss. Some of the other guys were building all these boards, and they don't maybe out of 10 boards you might get 2 really magical boards that you could race on. So I couldn't afford to do that. So when I set up my workshop here, John Gillis here, and he was really, really key in helping me to build boards up here. But he put me in touch with a guy in Sydney, a hydrodynamicist. I think his name was Scott Freeman, I think it was. But one thing he told me about fluid dynamics, he said water flow is susceptible to the rate of changes, the curvature of the curve.
Right. That's a nice scientific statement.
Yeah. So basically the water will hit the nose of the board, and then you'll increase, have a boundary layer which will either explode, the water molecules will either explode, or they will remain calm. And so I developed a board design software with a guy called Sandy Warwick, who had also worked with Neil Pride doing their sail design software in the beginning with Barry. So developing parabolic curves and trying to create a really smooth curve in a board. And it was basically the parabolic curve which gave you a really, really smooth curve, because the water would hit the front of the board and run all the way to the back of the board. So to get a magic board, you had to create this curve which was really smooth. And I was able changes. You could change a board 2 or 3 millimeters, and you only needed 1 or 2%, and you could get going faster. So, yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, this is quite an amazing sort of discussion, because I'm sort of thinking back to all this time, and it was very much you're saying you were starting to work on software and this sort of stuff, but the majority of this was just on the water testing. So going through each different fin, each different board, each different sail, and doing it practically. It's a lot of change. Lot has changed since then. I mean, that's the amazing part for us to hear.
Yes, it was. You're absolutely right, because you could have all the theory in the world, but at the end of the day, you had to take that prototype or that fin or that sail on the water. So I think my attention to detail and just my pursuit of perfection enabled me to just have this cut and dry. It was just, for me, it was either faster or it was slower. So there was no in between for me. It was either go on the water and make it faster, or go back to the drawing board and figure out why it's not making you go fast.
When you were doing the on-water test, was there any technology involved in the actual spitting out the data, or you could just feel it?
I could feel it. I could feel it most of the time, but what I did in the beginning, I worked very closely with Bruce Wally, and we had a really good working relationship. So we were doing the parametric testing. We were just doing the one-on-one testing, and it would take up the majority. Do one thing at a time. You couldn't change a fin and a tweak a sail at the same time. You could only do one thing at a time. So you could either adjust your downhaul.
This was the
Sorry?
Yeah, sorry, Phil. This was the question I had, because like you go out there and you change a fin, it might work with this board, and then you change something else, and then the fin isn't quite as responsive. I mean, how did you actually lock all that into the perfect combination? The actual ability of you as a sailor is what it's about. I mean, to say this fin's going to work with that board works with this sail, that sail works with this board, and so on,
Exactly. Yeah, well, exactly. That was the challenge, and I think that's without, I try to stay humble about my experience and my knowledge with, mastering the windsurfing game or figuring out the. And
I think you've done okay. Yeah, you've done all right.
Yeah. So, but what I did do was I kept meticulous notes on all my testing and all my experience, and not only notes during my testing, but notes during my racing days. So I kept I really kept a really good database of what worked with what. And at the end of the day, you just kind of figured out what you just knew what worked. I mean, your brain would pick up all the information, and you'd look at certain conditions and go, okay, I got to put this fin and this sail. But I think probably at the end of the day, I think I developed a special talent for feeling the equipment and knowing when I jumped on a board that I could feel something which I was well connected with and that it was easy to go. People would sometimes describe my sailing where they go, oh, you look like you can sail and you can have a cup of coffee while you're sailing. That's and true. So you had to, the best guys can sail fast easily, like Bjorn or Robbie or Anders Bringdahl. All the best guys could sail really fast and breathe and relax the body and look around and be tactical. And it was about you becoming one with your equipment. So, and you guys have all windsurfed, so there's a lot of variables. Yep. You are the stays, and you are the backstay. You are the boom vang, and you are all the tweaks that go on with a sail. And a yacht, you've got all these, you've got all the adjustment lines, and there's so many things that you can adjust. But on a windsurfer, it's such a raw form of sailing because you have to make it go fast, and you are you're the boss, and you have to make it all work together. So I think I developed a pretty good feel for that.
Whilst you could
sail
while having a coffee. Whilst that's the beauty of yachting with all the side stays, back stays, boom bang, you could actually sail and have several beers and still go fast.
Yeah, you could do a lot of things. Exactly. Well, you guys got the advantage of that.
Can I ask, Phil, at the very beginning when cambers were being tested, the camber and juice sail changed my sailing. I mean, I just, when I was windsurfing, the camber and juice sail made it so much more enjoyable to windsurf in general across the board. What was the initial or the first person to try it? What was the first and initial, system that was in place? I mean, it must have gone through quite a variation of, different styles and designs. So when did that all actually start?
I guess it was, I can't remember his name. Chuck Stahl. It was Gastro who developed the first camera inducer. And I think that was probably around 83 or 84.
Yep.
And after that, I think they had a patent on it for 2 or 3 years, and then everyone basically came out with their own versions. Neil Pride came out with their versions. North came out with their own versions. And again, it just became an arms race on what version that you had and trying to make it work. And they all worked pretty well. And it came down to thing, and getting your equipment ready for the race course. Like there was guys on the Gastro team or guys on the Neil Pride team, and I would get the same sails as everybody else, but I would take my sail and bring it home and go and I would look at it and I would pull it apart. I would take all the battens out and I would tweak all the camera juices, maybe shave a little bit off here, a little bit off there, and I would tweak all my battens and try to get the best out of your equipment. But it failing. Listening to all your podcasts and listening to all those top sailors, it's about learning the ropes of your boat, learning how to make it go fast, and it takes time. I was really interesting reading about Ian Murray winning the actual worlds in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I can't remember. He teamed up with another an Aussie. Who was it? Was it Magpie?
Yeah, Graham Taylor, GT, and the guys. Yep.
Graham Taylor. Yeah, he had teamed up with Graham Taylor, and they basically were using each other for testing these boats and these equipment, and that's what they did, and they went to the worlds and they dominated the worlds, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the way you do it. You've got to get somebody to work with who you can develop with and learn how to make your boat go fast. So you've got to have a team of people.
And Richie Allenson basically told me that he took out 22 grams out of the mast and made that, and he's saying that made a huge difference. I mean, that's where they are with that. I mean, with windsurfing now in the modern day, are they still making these advances? Do you think that they've got as far as they can go? I mean, what are your opinions there?
I think we stagnated for a while. I think development got really, really slow. I mean, obviously, what's happening in windsurfing now is the whole foil craze has started up. And all the guys who are doing the professional circuit, they're developing all their foil boards. And obviously, what's happened in the last couple of weeks with the iFoil being selected as a windsurfer class for the 24 Olympics, there's going to be a huge development that goes into that because the foils, well, although that has to be one design, but I'm not sure what if they're going to be able to tweak sails or masts or battens, but the guys who will get into that will have to develop the sails and within the rules and within the class, they're gonna develop their speed and it might be only taking, well, like Ian Murray did and Magpie, they took a little bit of weight out of the mast, but sometimes those 0.5% or those 1% make a huge difference in performance.
Well, and I was just going to say, but the iFoil, it's the standard one design package. They've got, I think it's the iFoil 95, their version of the iFoil. So far as I can work out, it'll all be supplied. So when they turn up, they just get supplied equipment. So they could do a little bit of tuning, I guess, like what you did with the battens and so forth. But I think they can actually tune the actual fin slightly on the foil. That's one area. Have you actually gone foiling? Have you done it yet, mate?
No, I haven't. I haven't done it. No, I live in Maui in Hawaii. When I go windsurfing, I either go slalom sailing, I do the summer series here, or I go down to a keeper and sail big waves. So I haven't done it. I think if you're in a place where there was lighter winds, then I think it would be more appealing for me. But I got into these other sports. I got into these other sports as well.
So maybe you should stop doing so many.
Well, that's what I did after I was at 42 when I stopped racing full time. I got into these other sports. So I think I was obviously very focused on those, and I would windsurfing at the same time, but not at the professional level. That's what enabled me to probably continue to do so well at a national level, because my fitness was so good from doing swimming, biking.
So I'll just come in here because you dropped out when you said what the other sport was. We had a bit of a dropout at our end, so people might be wondering what you're doing. You gave a hint there. It was swimming and biking and then running. So you took up the old triathlon and marathon running, didn't you?
Yeah, it was just I stopped racing full time, and I was in Europe for 3 weeks in 2006 and doing some business over there for Maui sales. And then I came back here and I was like, wait a minute, I'm getting a little bit too heavy. So I just started running anyway. Yeah, I've got into marathons, and I did done 11 ironmans and did a Hawaii Ironman 3 times. So yeah, but it was just another outlet to be competitive and have a good mental and physical challenge.
As you know, Phil, I did all the commentary for many years at triathlons. I did I did a little bit of triathlon myself, but then they ended up discovering that I could talk crap for a long time. So I ended up doing a lot of commentating triathlons and was sort of heavily into that scene for a while. And Nick Bice, who's sitting next to me, he had the quickest, shortest, brightest career as a triathlete I've ever seen. You sort of just he went and did Hawaii and went sub 10 hours, I think, from memory.
Yeah, although my triathlon these days are more of a swim through and just running hard, to tell you the honest truth. but no, that was a 12-month stellar triathlete career.
What possessed you to do that?
No, I used to ride a lot just due to all the sailing that I was doing in different parts of the world. And that's when cycling was quite popular with professional sailors. Well, still is. And everyone would come to a regatta with their bike, and you go for a ride every morning to see kind of the countryside which you're in. And then, as it turned out, I just had moved back to Adelaide and met who's a good mate of mine now, who owned a bike shop, who was training for triathlon. And I thought, I might as well just have a bit of a crack at this with him. And he's just went to Hawaii this year in a legacy spot. But I jumped straight in and did... and qualified for Hawaii on my second Ironman. And then, so it was a quick, stellar career. And then, as you're saying, prior to the show here, that you've just had a little Achilles issue now. And to tell you the truth, that was my downfall. Achilles went, and I'm still making a recovery 5 years later.
That's obviously it's a brutal race over there, and anybody who can get into such a short span and get qualified, you must be one hell of an athlete. But the running does take a toll on your body, and maybe after all these years of doing high level sports for probably 40 years, I realized that I'm not.
What a time to drop out. You realise you're not what, sorry?
Probably realise I'm not as invincible as I thought I was.
Yeah, well, you've just had some major surgery on your foot. You've had a bit of bone shaved so you can still run and walk. Like, I think you had quite sore Achilles, yeah?
I had a sore Achilles for 4 years, and April I got shut down. Couldn't put on a pair of shoes.
Is that just because you can't tie shoes?
I can't. No, I couldn't tie a shoelace. But yeah, there's a bone spur that grows on the back of your heel bone from running with a pair of shoes rubbing on it, and it got too sore. And 6 weeks ago, I had the surgery done, and they cut off the Achilles at the base and shave off the bone spur, and then anchor the Achilles back down again. So I'm about 6
weeks in, I think.
6 weeks. So I'm happy. I'm walking in a pair of thongs again. I can swim. I can bike. So I think the recovery's going well.
The other thing, Phil has gone. You know, when he couldn't run as much, he sort of started doing. Started doing a bit of adventuring, hiking over hills and mountains and all sorts of stuff, and got into like packing like a little tiny tent and a little bit of food, and just wandering off into the wilderness for 3 days and then coming back. You know, that's probably fair to say. That's what you sort of do a lot of as well now, yeah, mate.
Yeah, I did. I got into it here in Maui. I had a guest stay at my B&B, and he wanted to get up into the mountain and up into the volcano. So I basically went up there with a pack with him and got a tent and just started doing a bunch of hiking. But I think, you know, I got to a level of fitness where I could do all these things, and it became very easy, and it was such an adventure, and it's such you just so you know the
Phil, you just dropped on that one. You just let you boys know, if you should go and visit Phil and stay at his place, a little piece of paradise. But just be warned when he says, "Oh, let's just go up and look at the volcano." He did that to me, and he walked me down into the middle of the volcano. And 8 hours later, I'm struggling out of there, and I had to climb up a cliff face or something at the end, wasn't it, Phil? You were trying to kill me, weren't you?
Uphill for the last hour, but yeah, it was just another physical challenge for myself. I guess some people would say I'm a little bit crazy on the extreme side when I get into stuff. So I did a bunch of hikes in Europe with my daughter over the Dolomites. We went up into Mont Blanc and did a 10-day hike up there, and you know, probably did 5 or 6 hours a day in between all the huts, and to see the, you know, parts of the world which are beautiful and enjoy it. Living in Hawaii here, I don't get to go sailing.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
Can you
go on back?
Hey guys, just quickly, just wanted to go a little bit off the run sheet here. I've got a little bit of a surprise for you, Phil, and I would like to bring someone in and see if you can guess who.
It's going well so far.
Sorry, I was waiting for a response. Okay, Phil, you ready? Here we go.
G'day, Phil. Welcome from Malaysia. Got some great memories of coming and visiting you recently.
Bobby Wilmot.
There you go, mate.
What the hell is this? This is your life? When's Eddie coming on?
Phil, you're a great guy, and you know, just listening, talking about going hiking and running and all that, and you're just an incredible athlete. And I was over in Maui recently, and you offered to show me and my wife around, and it was definitely the adventure tour out through waterfalls in the back of Maui that I'm tourist guide.
Yeah, you know. No, it was great to host you up here, Bobby. So you must be over there doing a regatta.
Yeah, we got Roger Murder on right now on the Team Hollywood, and yeah, it's an interesting place, and we've got a 65 miler today, so we're just getting ready for that right now.
No.
Sounds good.
We might, Bobby Wilmot, one of the great names of sailing, so we might have to get him on as a special guest, Bar Karate, one day, mate. Would you be up for that?
Oh, anytime. You know, it's a great concept, and I think anything that gets sport to out to the masses is just a fantastic initiative, and I try and listen in every now and then, and good on you guys. I think it's really good.
Good man. No worries. Well, there you go. Bit of a surprise, Phil, and you picked it. Were you expecting that?
It's full of surprises, and it's a small world. So
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So it was a bit of sort of ad lib there, and I didn't realise that you knew each other until yesterday. We were chatting away, and I sort of put two and two together with Bob's windsurfing background. I thought, well, you know, Phil, and he went, yeah, I was only there, the other blah blah blah, and I went, oh, there we go.
Here we go.
yeah.
So good on you.
Oh,
So Jordan, are we on track here? I know I'm doing a.
Oh, you're doing the run sheet thing for me. Well, there was one question I wanted to ask you that, and having Bobby Wilmot sort of step in there is a perfect sort of trigger for it. Is there something in the sailing world that you sort of haven't done that you'd like to do?
It's funny. People always say, you know, do you miss anything about Australia when you're living in Hawaii? Because I've been here 33 years, and I really do love it here. It's very peaceful.
Little piece of paradise.
Style. It is. It's amazing to live here. So, but I really do miss sailing, and I miss. I think as I get older, I think about, you know, growing up in the Parramatta River and doing a lot of sailing in the harbour and you know, sailing with my brothers and my dad and having the camaraderie that you do get in sailing. Anything now, I think to do anything successful in any sailing class, you've got to put a lot of time into it. And I mean, you can never say never, but I enjoy coming back to Sydney and spending, you know, getting to crew with Doug on his Etchel, or getting a ride on, you know, some of the Volvo 60s on the harbour for a 12.
Yeah.
That I would want to do anything competitively in sailing. I would love to, but I just think it's a little bit late. And my life right now is still here in Hawaii, but I would never say never. But you've got to put time into something to be successful. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I certainly and I admire all the, you know, I listen to the podcast a lot, and I admire all the people who come on and just and learnt all the nuances of sailing a particular boat, and putting together the tactics and the campaign. It takes years and years and years to learn a boat and to put together a successful campaign and go to Olympics or win a world championship. And I realize I've done that with windsurfing, and I put years and years and years into it, and I've learnt the nuances of making a windsurfing board go extremely fast, and I realized that was probably my thing, and that's what I've been successful at, and I've got to be satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, that that might trigger us into a few little discussion points. So that what you said sort of just triggers me straight onto my next question. So let me throw the funky fat bass in, otherwise BP will get upset. Throwing our little transition sound. So I'll throw a question out to you all. Pretend you're, this is a valid question. It comes from the coaching world that I live in. Say you're a young up-and-coming gun and you sort of proved yourself to be quite capable. You're trying to make your way into the pro circuit. And this summer in Australia, you've got the opportunity to take a backup role, like maybe a backup trimmer or steerer on a competitive sort of front-of-the-fleet Div 1 boat in the Hobart, or you're going to be provided an Etchel, no constraints, you can crew it with whoever you want, put your own crew on. Which would you do? Which one's going to be better for you to advance your career?
I'll take it. First up, I'd be doing the Hobart for a couple of reasons, and almost going with what you said there, Phil, like to master any sort of boat or a class, to roll up to an Etchel's Nationals, no matter if you pick the crew and it's the best boat in the world, you're never going to just jump out of the blocks and go super well. So I think the better choice would be the Hobart, and come 2nd of January, you pick up that etchel and you start training for the Nationals the year after.
I think the Worlds are in Western Australia or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
What about you, BP? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with Bicey on that one. I mean, as you know, the etchels, if they're taking 22 grams out of a mast to get advantages, then that shows how tight it is. And I think if you did rock up at an event, you'd probably find yourself really battling. Now, the Hobart on the other side is a massive challenge just to finish the race, and everyone respects the fact that you're on the start line. And top sort of level racing boat, you have the ability to network yourself with your own knowledge, but also learn from a myriad of extremely experienced sailors. And I think that's the absolute beauty of the Hobart, is that you are sailing with these guys that have the experience. And offshore sailing, although it's different to inshore sailing, does lead you to a massive network of people. And too, yeah.
Any input from you, Phil?
Phil's going to Hobart on an etchel.
Hey?
No, I think I would probably take the etchel.
Love it.
I would. The Hobart, like you said, Hobart is a big beast. And it can go. I think it can go either way. I've done 3 Ironmans, and I don't think I need to have such a physical challenge as a Sydney to Hobart race. I think I would just take the challenge on as the etchel and take it on the head and just, if I'm going to finish mid-fleet or back-fleet in an etchel nationals, then I would just take it as just a massive learning experience and just a personal challenge, and I would enjoy that.
There you go.
So how'd you go there, Jordan?
Yeah, it's interesting.
From your students, say?
Yeah.
What did you tell them to do?
Well, I don't know, the young fella I'm thinking of, it's a backup role, when he could probably be the best helmsman on the boat, you know what I mean? And he's sort of stuck in a backup role, but I'm not sure. I don't know the other guys on the boat, but he has done the etchels on a couple of boats before, so it has a chance of actually probably being in the top 15 or top 10 if he really nails it. But
James. Okay. Yeah. Got you.
But in terms of opportunity, it's you can't lose, really. Either one's going to do well for him. So
first of all, why on earth have they got a clash between the Nationals and the Hobart to start with?
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's
isn't it?
No good.
Go on. Sorry, is that you, BP?
No, I was just going to say, look, I'm thinking if it's James you are talking about, those sort of, he's
no
already
names.
in good stead.
No names.
No names.
This is for any general youngster listening out there. The opportunity's there for everyone.
It was a little specific.
Yes. For this young fella. No, look, and I guess just finishing, if you are in a position that you're able to get invited onto one of these lead boats, you're already obviously established or semi-established, being at whatever racing you're doing. The Hobart is 3 days, so realistically, that's the way I would see it. But
going offshore is important for a young fella.
Fantastic thing to tick off, and this year in particular, a bit of a plug for the race. It's the 75th, so it's going to be pretty monumental.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. So, speaking of sort of intense one design classes, the 44 Cup's on again. Anyone been looking at that?
Yep, I had a little look-ski at that. It was just finished up today, actually. And it was meant to be the heavyweight bout between Team Aqua and Team Nika, who are possibly the oldest and most successful teams in the class. And they were just separated by 1 point coming into this regatta for overall. And then there was Karif, who was behind them by 5 points, who took out the actual this regatta and overall for the season. Yeah. So huge result for them.
Yeah. And crazy conditions. It was quite challenging conditions as well. So from memory, I think they got blown out in day one. but in Palma.
And non-discardable event, this one.
Oh, is
so
it?
that would have played out in the end results for sure.
Okay. All right, well then, congratulations to the team, the Slovenian team, Team Tarif. That's a mighty impressive performance. So, yeah, wow. Nico second and Team Aqua third. All right, rolling on because we've sort of chewed up a lot of time. BP, we've seen the multi-50s come in. We've seen the Omoka 60s finish, and we haven't seen we have now seen the finish of the Class 40s. Did you have a look at that, buddy?
I have to. You'll have to excuse me. I don't know what that background noise is. Is that someone out in the wind?
Don't know, mate. Don't worry about it. Don't focus on it. You still there?
Then head down, butt up, travelling and getting this Rajamuda sorted out. So I actually haven't had a look. So I'm sorry about that one.
No, you're fine, mate. You're fine. So we thought it was pretty interesting. We just sort of follow up. So just so you know, your forecast, Ian Lipinski and Adrian Hardy were the winners. And won quite convincingly by about 6 hours over Sam Goodchild and Fabian Delahue. And then another French team, all French team. Do I have to pronounce?
I can see Jordan
Yes, you do.
hesitating right here.
This is Ian and Greg's brother. Aymeric Chapelier and Pierre Le Boucher.
Le Boucher?
In third. Phil, how are you with the names?
Oh, no. I think I just forgot all about my French.
Anyway, so they had a good little blast and quite close racing, but in the end they sort of gapped out. And that was effectively the positioning in the last few days. So the Trionzo Jacques Vabre is finished. It was enjoyable for us. I think we paid plenty of attention to it. The next major event, particularly with the IMOCAs, is going to be the Vendée.
Not to mention that most of the single-handed skippers are sailing back solo at the moment.
Yep.
Most of them have just left. So, but yeah, Vendée.
Yeah. And then the other big event that we've sort of been watching is the Maxi Cats racing around doing the Brest Atlantique. My Lord, there's some stuff going on in that little world.
You kind of get a story how bad it is for a minute there. But they're so bloody quick they can get out of it.
Yeah.
So they look as though they're just skirting around the edge of a pressure system now, about to hook a left-hand turn to head into Cape Town and do a little lap around Robben Island, and off they go again. Farewell.
Phil, do you follow the old team, the big trimarans? You know the things we're talking about? Do you follow them at all, mate?
No, not really.
Okay. Sort of. You sort of dropped out on that one, buddy. So not really is what we picked up. I was filling in the gap there with the old teams. I don't know if you guys picked it up, but it's just been crazy around Rio. So because you had Gitana in the lead, so Maxi Edmond de Rothschild in the lead, and Massif in second, and old team 3 or Sadibo in third, and then True Leader in fourth. It's sort of, if you've sort of haven't been paying much attention, it's sort of looked like that's the same order it's been in since the start. But what happened in and around Rio was a
few technical pit stops, right?
Yeah, technical pit stops. Gitana had to go in and fix their, I think it was their dagger board or something, and then Massif had to go in and fix its rudder. And then, so that had Sadibo in the lead, and it was heading out of Rio, and then saw this massive little storm building up. So turned around and came back.
Had a few Caparinias. And called it good.
everyone was sort of taking a chance at the lead, and then it's sort of just gone straight back into order again. They've all sort of departed Rio at the same time and are crossing over towards Cape Town now. So they're back in their sort of traditional order, but it got all confused. It was quite bizarre watching for a while.
Well, let's see if this happens in Cape Town as well, because it could be a little conspiracy going on. Just a little restart for everyone.
Oh, is that what you reckon's going on? Throwing the conspiracy theories out there. Too. I wonder when True Leader's going to actually win. That's because they've called themselves True Leader.
Actual born leader.
Actual born leader, yeah. There's a couple of topics on here that I want to touch on, but we might be a bit dead for time. I might touch on one, a bit of a fun discussion. So I've had this idea during the week, on how to write a book, okay? The Bar Karate book, right? So we've got Bar Karate Lager coming. We've got all sorts of different Bar Karate things.
Bar Karate merchandise.
The Bar Karate race course.
Bar Karate belt. Bar Karate bottle opener.
And now the book.
Bar
right?
Karate stubby holder. Bar Karate songs.
That's
Yes.
true. Yep. And then, so I've got this idea on when you look at people write a biography, right? Some people get to some sort of level of fame and then they get a biography. And they either write it themselves or they get a ghostwriter, right? Which is what you've got planned, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got one in the pipeline
Yep,
already.
what's that one?
It's Memoirs of a Glass Boy.
Yep.
It goes back to my days being the glassy down at the Sailmaster Tavern.
Yep.
Actually, when BP, you were serving at the bar at that point in time. And I do have a ghostwriter, Mick Gaffney. He's he's started penning a few things for me, just over the many, many years. So we'll see how that pans out.
Okay. Well, so my idea is that if you want to do a book, rather than you write it, if you want to do a biography, what you do, the Bar Karate theory is you actually just get all your mates to write a chapter, and then they get to pick a story to write about you, then they write a chapter.
Mate, it'd turn into like a 21st birthday.
Exactly.
The speeches at your 21st.
So, BP, who was the first person that would write a chapter for you?
Oh, God, on the spot here, I'd have to say my mate that I grew up with. We grew up water skiing together, and we would evidently take every Friday off school and go up water skiing, and we spent our weekends water skiing. I mean, so that's probably some big chapters there.
Okay.
Who was that guy you lived with in Adelaide? At Grange? I reckon he'd have a pretty good few chapters as well.
What, Gatesy and Sabi? Yeah, there's some funny chapters there, but that would have to be sort of midway through the book, because by then I was
You don't want Mum to
well
stumble.
underway.
You don't want Mum to stumble across that chapter straight away.
This is the problem. All your mates. This is the whole idea about this book. Your mates would sell you down the tube. That it'd be hilarious because they'd all tell the stories that you wouldn't quite tell. Is there anyone, Phil, that's got some dirt on you that you would write a pretty funny chapter?
I think I would probably say the most time I spent was probably with someone during my windsurfing days is Bruce Wily. So I think Bruce could tell some pretty good stories. Yeah, we spent a lot of time in Europe together. We took our first trip to Europe together and had some pretty good time. Broken down VW that we ended up pushing onto a ferry the first time we went to Europe. So, yeah, probably Bruce.
Bruce. Yeah. Well, so he wouldn't sell you down the river because you could just return the favour to him. You're sort of both legends, really, aren't you?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together. A lot of good times.
He because he's running the Cobra factory for all our windsurfer fans out there, isn't he? He's in Thailand running the Cobra factory, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's a busy boy. He's all over the world and running the windsurfing or a lot of the manufacturing, the surfboard side of things at Cobra.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, all right. Well, so that was just an idea. What I would like to go on to now is Secret Pro News. Somebody's just knocking on our door. This is crazy. Might be just someone just complaining about the noise at the middle of the night.
I've got some Secret Pro. I've got some Secret Pro news this week, if you don't mind, lads.
Yep, go for it, BP.
All right. Now this is hot off the press.
Okay.
That Wild Oats will be competing in the Big Boat Challenge.
In the Big Boat Challenge.
How's that?
So they've actually destroyed the boat, and now they've got it all back together already. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying. On the start line at the Big Boat Challenge.
Right. Good.
How's you like that one? You like that one?
Good work.
I missed it. We just got told off for we had 4 noise complaints
4 noise
from
complaints?
our hotel room.
Wow. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Lucky we're not, but not lucky. It's not a normal bar karate episode.
Yeah. Any other Secret Pros you got, boss?
Nah, no Secret Pro, although I did pick one little one up about our mate Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the Ineos owner.
Yep.
Only worth 18.2 billion.
Far out.
And
what
I
a waste
think
of time.
it's just been confirmed that Team Ineos have brought the GBR Sail GP team. So Ben and the boys can get a bit more sailing. But what I'm also a little project Sir Jim's got going on, he brought the rights to manufacture the Land Rover Defender. And he's just won a case against Land Rover. So he clearly has something against Land Rover because he brought BAR Land Rover, got rid of him. He's now joining Sail GP. One of their biggest sponsors was Land Rover. He just won a court case against Land Rover. So what the hell's going on here?
He's got a thing for Landy.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a Land Rover. Is he coming for you?
He's coming for me next.
Good Secret Pro, that one. Good one.
Good one. All right, boys. I think we're going to have to wind this up because noise complaints and it's quite funny. It is very late where we are, so we apologise to all our neighbours. They're probably all going to hear about us at Mets anyway.
And the best thing is I can just run out of here and go and knock on all their doors and hide.
Resort.
All right. So if you do want to get in contact with us, Instagram, Facebook, Bar Karate website, share the episode with your friends, do all that sort of stuff. We'll close off with saying thanks to Phil McGain, mate.
Phil, awesome, mate.
Good to have
Thanks
you on
for
the show.
joining.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good fight, good times.
Indeed. Good times indeed. So it was good fun. And we might get you back on again, mate. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't even come close to covering. So, yeah, we'll look forward to it. I'll talk to you shortly, mate. Thanks so much for joining in.
Yep, no worries.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jordan.
See you, buddy. And a quick question, if you were wondering, I asked if you were to visit every island in Japan at a rate of 1 a day, how long would it take you? Just under 19 years. 19 years to visit all the islands in Japan. 6,852 islands.
Might go for a trek.
Yeah, it's quite a full ball one. The question I have for you guys this week, this is a cracker. Right. At which highly prestigious US-based university can you gain certification as a pirate if you complete a pistol marksmanship course, an archery course, a sailing course, and a fencing course? Whew.
I think they got to add in rum drinking as well.
All right, boys. I reckon that's us. Have a great week, hey?
See you, fellas.
See you, Ron.
All right. See you later, guys. Cheers.